Hi everyone, I'm Hala, and I graduated from university last year. And let me tell you, a lot has happened since. I still remember that distinct bittersweet feeling of excitement, but also real panic for leaving university. It was like, yay, I finally have a degree, what an achievement! But also, wait, I finally have a degree. Now what? The thing is, nobody really tells you how to go from being a student to becoming a full-fledged adult. Looking for jobs, worrying about bills, navigating real-life problems. And that is why I decided to start this podcast. This is How to Adult, a guide to help me and you figure out how to be adults together. In every episode, I'll talk through the stuff we were never really taught how to do at school or in life, and share what I've learned along the way. I will be bringing you real stories and advice that will be a kernel of comfort to help you through the never-ending roller coaster of being an adult. Think of them as the healing conversations we have with our friends in a group chat at 3 a.m. when the existential crisis hits. So this is How to Adult, a podcast from The National, and I'm your host, Hala Nasar. I sincerely hope you stick with me till the end. In the first episode of this podcast, we'll dive into the first big challenge after graduation, job hunting. I'll chat with someone who's right in the middle of it, fresh degree in hand, trying to find her place in the UAE job market. Next, I sit down with a recruitment director who breaks down what really matters when you apply. Stay tuned! Joining me now is Nimra Abdelghaffar, a fresh graduate who, despite completing several internships in the UAE and interviewing for many companies, is feeling a bit lost in her job search. She's joining me now to share how tough it is to navigate finding a job as a fresh graduate. Hi Nimra, how are you?
Hi Hala, I'm good.
So you're really fresh off the exams.
Yes, and it's just liberating, honestly.
So it feels liberating, huh? Describe to me, how do you feel? I mean, there's no future semester to worry about. So how does that feel?
It's a bit of a bittersweet. The sweet part is, of course, a huge weight has been lifted off of my chest. But then this was 5 years of my life, just working and doing something, and the routine was the same. And now the bitter part is there's a lot of uncertainty.
5 years, that's a lot. What did you study at university?
So I studied industrial engineering with double minors in finance and data science.
Oh, women in STEM.
Yes.
All right. Tell me a little bit about that. What does that look like? A student with 2 minors, a major in one of the biggest universities in the UAE, American University of Sharjah, am I right?
Yes, American University of Sharjah. So at first it was hectic. You know, you're a first year, you can't manage. But then it became significantly better. Once I got the hang of things, which was like probably in my second year, it was just relaxing, taking my classes, studying, putting in the late nights, but then also like you're enjoying with everyone around you because we're all doing the same thing. But then eventually everyone also had to graduate, and so did I. And now we're all just here.
Okay. Why did you pick to minor in finance and data science?
I picked data science because of the change in the world where it's become so like AI based. And I feel like in this economy, with the current job market, with everything, we need to be more equipped with the skill set. So I had to go towards that AI thing as well because that's what everyone's doing. It's like you have to do it because you need to be able to just stand out in the job market. Additionally, I did finance because I at first wanted to major in finance, but I felt like engineering was more my type rather than a business degree. So I just did a minor in it to try it out, and I enjoyed it, to be honest.
That's a lot of different things that you could go into. I mean, the job market, it's far and wide. And have you started looking for a job?
Yes, I've been looking since January. Firstly, because I'm a part time student. But if you need to get a summer internship, you start 6 months in advance. Or if
Yikes.
you want to get into a graduate program, you need to start early as well because it's become extremely competitive.
And what have you noticed? I mean, have you done internships, traineeships? Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, the first internships I did were with startups. And then the next set of internship was my university mandated internship, where I did learn like a whole new software, which was Tableau. And now when I'm applying for jobs, it's actually coming pretty handy to say that I am qualified in Tableau because many companies are using it.
Hmm.
And then the last taste of an internship that I just recently had was my senior project, where it was kind of like part-time internship, part-time research.
So, having collected all of these skills, has it made it easier to enter the job market?
To some extent, yes, but also no, because you have to realize that jobs are very specific and a specific role is tailored to a specific individual when you're applying. But when you actually are, I've heard that when you do the job, the recruiters will tell you, oh, you just don't need to be specialized in finance, but you need to know how to manage the data as well. You need to know all these other things. But then when it comes to the interview part, I usually am better because I can explain to them in person, like, these are my skills, this is what I know.
Okay, and what are your thoughts about this new chapter in your life?
It's a bit daunting. It's a bit scary because it's like I need to not just find a job, but the right job. The right job means that, okay, I see a future here. I don't want to be moving my career a lot. I don't want to jump from place to place, but rather want to stay one place and grow. My goal is to work in a multinational company where I actually do start off from the bottom, but then build my way up. And it's going to be a lot better to start from one company rather than moving from place to place, because I genuinely just need the right job where I feel like all of my skills are utilized, and if not, but then the best of my skills are utilized. And I'm learning and I'm growing at the same time. But right now, it's like applying for places and not even hearing back. It's a bit of a daunting situation, hearing that a lot of the companies, especially these multinational ones, are on hiring freeze, and it's become a bit of a daunting time. But I still have hope. I just graduated. I'm sure there is something out there.
For sure. Hopefully, you'll find the job that's right for you. And that's exactly what you're looking for, aren't you? Like, you're not just applying arbitrarily, you're applying for something that you think you can do great in.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell me, what other things are you looking forward to when you're entering the job market? I mean, it's a new chapter in your life. Like, what do you hope to achieve, or what are some of your goals when entering this new chapter?
I would say first, let's get rid of the cliches and definitely a work-life balance. Definitely not overworking, because that is something that happens to new hires where I've heard from many friends say, I'm extremely overworked. And that is one of those things that I just want to avoid. For me, myself, is a lot of personal and intellectual growth. So the reason I told you that multinational companies is because they have these offerings where you have to actually study while you're working. And I don't want to get out of the habit of learning new things and acquiring new skills while I'm working, because it actually boosts your, not just your position, but also your intellect while you're doing your job. And it kind of makes you want to show up to work because you're learning something new, and then right off the bat you're practicing in person. And that is the type of career and job I want to have.
Okay. Thank you so much, Nimra, for being here with me today. And this has been great. I hope you find the thing that you need and the thing that's right for you. And, the other side is brighter. I can tell you that as a graduate of last year myself.
All right, Hala, thank you.
So here's the thing. No one really prepares you for that phase right after graduation. You've got your degree, but suddenly you're on job portals and wondering where to start. For some, looking for a job takes months even. So today, I brought in someone who actually knows what recruiters are thinking. Joining me now in our studio at the National is Cameron Hutchinson, who you might know him as @RecruiterCam on Instagram. He's a recruitment director based in Dubai with years of experience on hiring the right people for the right job. Cameron, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Thinking about jobs, why does finding a job right after graduation feel like a full-time job in itself?
Because it is a full-time job. And if you don't commit enough time to job seeking, then you may not, one, get the job at all, or two, get the job that you actually want. I think people assume that because they've made an application that the recruiter or the company is going to say, oh, great, yeah, look, they've made an application. But you have to go above and beyond. Making an application and hoping for the best is not enough. And I see lots of advice from different places saying, oh, make as many applications as you can. Disagree.
Oh.
Be quite selective in terms of where you're making the applications, because you can actually then put more effort and input into the applications you're making. If you apply for 100 jobs, can you give those 100 applications 100% of your time? Unlikely, no. And it may be that you're applying for jobs just because. Actually, if you choose certain jobs that you think, I really want that job, like, I really want it, I'm going to make every effort I possibly can to work with that company, and we can talk about how in a moment, you can make more impact with less job applications than just hoping, oh, I'll apply to 100 and hope I hear back from one.
It's really interesting you say that, because that's exactly what happened with me. I had one job application, put my 100% in it, and I'm here now. So, but what if, someone isn't sure about the kind of job that they want to do? What do they do? Do they apply widely? Do they apply for something they're not sure about? Or should they wait until they're more focused before starting to apply?
Waiting until you're focused is a bit of a dangerous game, because when will you know how focused you are? Did I think when I left school that I would be operating as a recruiter in Dubai? No.
Okay.
So I think focus comes after you maybe do a job for a period of time and you decide actually you like it, maybe you don't like it, maybe there are elements of a certain job that you think, I'd like to mix that with something else, and then you try again. But I think if you wait to focus, what are you waiting for? Like, can you afford to not have a job? No.
Yeah.
You need a job to pay bills, right? So I think sometimes finding a job that fits you right now and then maybe growing and developing into something else in the future. As I say, the end game was never for me to be a recruiter in Dubai. I thought I was going to be an estate agent in England forever. But you don't. You make changes. And over the time, you apply for a job, you don't get that one, you go for another one, you think, I'm really good at this, and you find a passion. So I wouldn't say that you have to wait to focus. Going back to your earlier point, how do people decide what they want to do? What are they good at? What do they like? What makes them get out of bed in the morning? Because if you're doing a job that you don't like, skills.
Noticing your skills.
Yeah.
In yesterday's conversation, when we filmed the video for the series, you told me that skills are perhaps the most important thing in your CV. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Sure. So people overlook skills because they say, oh, well, I've worked at this company for 5 years, or I've been educated at this university. That's great, but what skills do you actually have? We talked yesterday briefly about listening skills, which is perhaps the most overlooked skill ever. But if you're doing certain jobs, you need to be able to listen. You need to be able to respond. You need to be able to sell to a customer based on what they've told you. And if you've not listened, then you might not be able to do so well. But skills, hugely important. And actually LinkedIn recognized this a few years ago and suggested that you should actually add skills to your profile. I've seen a lot of CVs recently, say in the last year or two, that have also had skills added. Because you can ask somebody about their specific skills. We talked about listening, but it might be closing or negotiating. Okay, tell me about that skill. Because actually, if you just say, I've worked at this job for this many years, it's a bit generic. Actually, if you did this job for this many years and you aced your negotiating skills, tell me about that. Because actually, that might be of interest to me.
So be able to talk about your skills. But what if somebody never had a job before? I mean, what skills can they put?
But you don't get skills just from working, right? You get skills from a passion or a hobby that you might have, or an interest outside of work. You may pick up a skill in the house. Let's take myself as an example. I lived at home until I was only 17, and then I moved out and I went to live with my grandparents, and she taught me how to cook, my grandmother. So that's a skill. I can cook and I can cook many different things, but I would not necessarily list that on my CV now because it's not relevant. But if I were a graduate or somebody leaving school that perhaps didn't go to university, then you need to add on the skills that you've learned in life. They're not just from work.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned LinkedIn. Now, we are in a new era of, I guess, applying to jobs, and the job market is a bit saturated in some areas. Is having an online presence important for applying for a job?
Huge. Depending on the type of job that you're looking to go into. And of course, I'm coming from a real estate recruitment background. So first impressions count. Having a good online presence, how do you present yourself? What type of properties are you selling? How do you communicate with others? Do you respond to comments? Are you active online? There's many things that you could look into, but I genuinely believe me having a better online presence puts me in front of more people and presents more opportunities to me, whether they be employment opportunities or today's podcast, for example. If I didn't have an online presence, you wouldn't have reached out to me, right?
That is true. That is true.
And you never know where things could lead to. So definitely, I think online presence is important, yes.
Well, as a recruiter, what are some things that instantly to you make a CV pop out? You look at the CV and you're like, okay, I've seen thousands of those. This one stands out.
Controversial, but I'm going to say photo.
Photo?
Photo. And I'm gonna continue with the controversy and say you have to, in today's modern age, we're all on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, Facebook. We all have an online presence. Most company websites, there's a meet the team and there's a photo of the individual, right? There is something about a photo that allows somebody to easily connect. Now, of course, there's negatives, I guess, some people would say, to having a photo on their CV. But for me personally, and how many CVs my company receives, if I see something come through my inbox and it's got a clear name, clear contact information, maybe clear skills that the person thinks that they're good at, and a photo which is professional in manner, that will catch my attention more so than 2 pages of text. Like, how do you easily scan? Do you know?
That is interesting, because I had been given the advice to not put my photo when I started applying for jobs.
Why? Like, did that person tell you why not to add the photo?
Multiple people told me not to, and if the reason was maybe bias, or what if your image doesn't fit the job description that the recruiter had in mind? Is that something that people should be worried about?
Then I think that's super sad, because you're you. You're Hala, right?
Yeah.
Why would you not want your CV to emulate who you are? And who you are is also what you look like.
True.
How you communicate. It's like saying that you would put your CV through ChatGPT to make it perfect. But if you don't communicate perfectly, you're not really being your true self. So I think actually there's probably a whole podcast we can do on bias. So we'll keep it
yes.
we'll keep it high level. But I think definitely if you are applying for a job in today's market and you already have an online presence, why wouldn't you add a photo onto your CV to give it that extra personality? Because who's to say that you're not using a template that somebody else is using and your CV looks exactly the same as somebody else's? What's the differentiator? Your photo, your name.
Seeing as you have been a recruiter for 9 years, what is something that you think job seekers worry about too much when applying for a job that doesn't matter nearly as much to recruiters?
Their education information.
Oh, wow.
I know. I hope your listeners stay tuned.
That was surprising, I'm not going to lie.
I'm talking about it from my own experience.
Okay.
And I'm talking about it from the perspective of the type of experience that we look for when we're recruiting real estate talent or anybody within our business. Am I super bothered about where you've studied? Or am I more interested in what you've studied? And am I more interested in what life experience you have and maybe the skills that you have? And I know I keep referring back to skills, but you could be an A grade student with the best honours degree that you've ever seen, but you maybe lack in people skills, you maybe lack in communication skills, and you're applying for a high-level job in a hospitality company. You're educated, fantastic, thank you, that's great. You don't have any of the skills that I'm actually looking for. So even though I said I wanted a degree in, I don't know, hospitality or tourism or something of that sort, if you don't have the actual skills I'm looking for, you're probably not suitable. And I would rather choose a candidate that has the experience than the education.
Another thing that we hear often from people entering the job market, or people that have been there actually for a while and have done a lot of different jobs, is networking.
Mm-hmm.
What can you tell me about that? I mean, I know networking seriously helps you get to places, but is it as important as everyone makes it to be? And how does someone network for them to get a job?
Do I think networking is important? Yes. I say it all the time, but the more hands you shake, the more money you make.
Okay.
Because in literal terms, the more people you're meeting, the bigger your network grows. And actually, everybody knows that your network is your net worth. I know it's quite a cliche line, but it's so true. And networking can come in many different forms. You don't have to dedicate actual time going to a networking event, but you could be part of groups. You maybe even network without you even realizing. If you're in community groups on the likes of Facebook, if you're in, I don't know, there's lots of online networking that you can do. But the UAE, and of course I live in Dubai, is fantastic. Like, it's such an amazing place to network, whether you're looking for something professionally, you have a shared interest or hobby, you're looking for a job. I'm a member of 3 different networking groups in Dubai, just from the perspective of being a member. I think it's important, but I network all the time. You never know who you're going to meet and where that could lead you.
That is true. That is true.
And that could result in a job, right?
It could. Yeah. I mean, what if you do all the right things and you apply and you get a word back, it's time for an interview? Most people panic here. What do I prepare for? How do I prepare? What should somebody really prepare for, and what should they avoid doing from the perspective of a recruiter who deals with this all the time?
So it's easy for me to say, but the first piece of advice is don't panic, okay?
Easier said than done.
It is easier said than done, but try to practice some meditation maybe, go to the mirror, say, Hala, calm down. Life's good. The silver lining here is I've got an interview.
Get it together.
Okay? But most importantly, be yourself. Like, again, I use myself as an example, and all of the things I talk about are either from my own experience as a job seeker or when I've been helping others. Be yourself. Be unapologetically you. Because if you go to an interview and you are yourself and you get the job, fantastic. They like you for who you are, the skills you have, the experience that you can bring, the vibe. If you go to the interview with somebody else and you don't get it, you'll be upset. If you go to the interview with somebody else and you get the job and then you turn up on day one, you've got to pretend you're somebody else? No, be yourself. And I think that is something I learned very early on. And it stayed with me. Like, my employers know who I am. I'm not anybody else. And I've got every job that I've interviewed for because I've been myself. So be yourself.
Be yourself.
Count to 10.
And once you do go to that interview and have that interview and you go and you're like, okay, now that's over. What do you do? Do you follow up? Do you show up? Do you sit and wait? How should someone do that without being annoying?
I'm probably going to say something else controversial.
Okay. You're full of controversial stuff.
I know. But you didn't invite me on to have a smooth ride, right?
True.
I would say this. Job seeking is much like dating. Would you go on a date with somebody and would you expect that person to follow up with you if they had a nice time?
I think so.
Yeah?
Yeah.
But you'd want them to do it in a tasteful manner, right? You go to a job interview. Let's say you're interviewing me today and I leave. I'm going to follow up with you. Did I follow up with you yesterday after we met?
You did.
Great to meet you today, Hala. Da-da-da-da. Here's this,
He
here's
did
that.
say great to meet me.
I did. And it was great to meet you. But it adds that extra layer of you care. Like, the follow-up is so important because if I interview somebody and they don't follow up with me to say thank you for your time, it puts me off the candidate. Really, it does. And I don't think I'm alone when I say that because I want to be thanked for my time. Equally, I will thank the candidate for their time. But a follow-up shows that the candidate's interested. And more often than not, if the candidate doesn't follow up, they don't want the job. Not badly enough anyway.
So does a thank you email work here?
Huge. Thank you email, thank you WhatsApp. I think you don't have to go over the top with excessive messaging or send them something to say thank you. No, a simple thanks. Great to meet you today. Looking forward to hearing back from you. And hopefully throughout the interview, as the interviewee, you've asked, when might I be able to hear back? Like, is there a time frame that you're looking to fill this role? And if they say, yep, by Friday, you'll have an answer, you say in that message, great to meet you today. Looking forward to hearing back from you on Friday. If there's anything else you need in the meantime, please don't hesitate to ask.
There's your formula.
The winning formula.
The winning formula. Do you have any other advice that people may not think about immediately when going for an interview or applying for a job that I haven't asked about?
We touched on it yesterday, so I do think it's important. I remember we spoke about listening. You're on an interview, listen to what the interviewer is asking you. Because if you respond with a completely wrong answer or you get tongue-tied, it's fine, but just own it and say, I'm really sorry, could you repeat the question? Take a few moments to actually listen to the question and then respond properly. So listen, and try not to dominate the conversation. Again, when you apply for a job, yes, you want your experience, your CV, the way you show up to do the talking, but in the same breath, you certainly don't want to overpower the interviewer, okay? So take a moment, listen, respond. And again, don't be afraid to take a moment to respond. People think that if they have a break, it's like they don't know what they're talking about. You're just taking a moment, I'm thinking, and then I respond. And actually that, from an interviewer's perspective, I can look at and go, okay, so she is listening. She's responding properly. That shows actually she can listen. That shows she can move forward with the conversation. And that might be a skill that I'm looking for.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Cameron. These are really insightful and helpful tips, and I hope the listeners would benefit from them. Thanks again.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
All right, let's wrap this up with a few takeaways from today. First, don't treat job hunting as a casual stroll and click activity. It takes commitment, focus, and real effort. Use examples from hobbies, volunteering, school, or home life to show what you're good at. Skills aren't only built through jobs. A solid LinkedIn profile or professional profile can increase visibility. Recruiters do notice your effort, and it could lead to unexpected opportunities. And finally, send a short, sincere thank you message after an interview. It shows interest, professionalism, and that you really care. And hey, if this episode helped you even a little, share it with a friend who's also freaking out about their next step. I'll be back with a brand new topic for you. Please remember to follow and subscribe to this channel and get in touch with us at thenationalnews.com on Instagram or The National News on TikTok, where a video version of this series will be published. Leave us your comments or questions there so we can all learn how to adult together. I am your host, Hala Nasar, and thank you for joining.